Hello and welcome to the guided practice for lesson 2, from hunters to gatherers. In this independent practice, you will be looking at a map of the migration of early humans, and then you will be completing this pace chart. This is all in part 1, and then you will be reading a short text or short prompts, and then completing the 2 following questions. All right, I'll go through each part of your independent practice so you know what to expect for tomorrow. All right, whenever I'm looking at a document or map, we will be looking at a lot of documents and maps throughout this course. So you want to kind of get in the habit of always looking at the key or kind of the title to let you know what you're looking at. So the key on this map would usually be like in a square, a little box, and we can see straight off the back that it's a migration of early humans. So that's what this map is depicting, all right? And then if I look further into the key, I can see that these arrows represent how many years ago the early humans migrated. So if I look at the first magenta arrow, I can see that wherever I see a magenta arrow, I'm going to know that those early humans migrated 1.9 million years ago. All right, if I see a blue arrow, I'm going to know that those humans migrated 200,000 years ago, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's just look at Africa. Let's take Africa, for example. So I see a blue arrow, all right? So I know that those early humans migrated out of Africa 200,000 years ago. And then I see a magenta one where the early humans migrated into Europe and Asia, and then, kept migrating into Australia, and that happened 1.9 million years ago. And you can look at North America, South America, and then use the key to understand how many years ago these early humans migrated. Right? So now after you understand the map, after you understand the key and what everything represents, you want to come down here to the PACE chart, all right? PACE will be used throughout this course, all right? And the acronyms will always be the same. The P will always stand for preview or purpose. The A, you will be annotating throughout this whole year, all right? And we will be very familiar with how to do that in various ways. The C will always stand for comprehend, and this is where I'm checking for your understanding. Do you understand what you've been looking at thus far, of what you've read thus far? All right, I don't want to keep moving forward if you don't understand the text or the document that we just examined. And then E will always be examine. So after you annotated, after you understood the purpose of the text, after you, decide what the meaning is, you want to kind of ask yourself, how does this document or how does this text bridge a gap into today's society? If you think back to the earlier lessons, we read a quote from E.H. Carr that says, history is a dialogue between the past and the present. All right, so in the examine, that's what we're doing when we want to create that dialogue. So how does, the document or the text, relate or reflect to today's society? All right, so with the examine, we will always take that lesson's issue or topic and make that connection to today or to our lives. All right, so PACE will always be the same acronyms. The only thing that will change is the document at hand or the text at hand. All right, and then for part 2, you guys are going to read a short blurb and you're going to answer these 2 questions. Now, after looking at the map, I'm just going to do the purpose and annotate for you guys real quick, and then you're going to be able to do this independently on your own. So after I read the map and looked at the key, I'm going to look at my purpose. Remember, the purpose is always going to be the same. It's kind of like a preview. What do I already know about this historical time period? So I know that the map shows the migration of early humans. I know during that time, the humans were considered Homo sapiens, hunters and gatherers. I know that, this was during the Paleolithic era. And I also know that, when the humans were migrating, they were looking for, shelter, food, and, their way of life wasn't as our way of life is today. What is the purpose of this document? The purpose of this document, and I can always kind of look at the key for my evidence. If the key says something about the title or what's being shown, that's usually the purpose of it. So if you look back at the map here, the key says migration of early human. So for me, I'm gonna decide that the purpose of this document is to show or depict the migration of early humans, all right? And the arrows also helps me to come up with that statement. And I can also just use the whole map in general to prove that as my evidence, You know, I can see that the arrows are showing that. And from the map again, you can see that, you know, the early humans migrated such and such years ago. So that's my evidence, and that's how I was able to support that statement I made, that that's what the map is showing. All right, and annotate, does this document show evidence of an enduring issue? Now, if I think back to yesterday's lesson when we learned about some enduring issues, I'm going to say yes, that this map does depict evidence of an enduring issue, because here I can see migration. I can understand, because I know what this time period entailed and what the humans were going through during this time period, the Paleolithic era. I do know that the humans had an impact on the environment, and the environment had an impact on the humans. So I'm going to say I am seeing an example of an enduring issue. So just like I broke it down for purpose and annotate, you guys would do the same for comprehend and examine. Now you can use my same points that I said with the P and the A, or you can come up with your own points, you know, depending on your perspective, because remember, this is history and we all have our own narratives. And then you're just going to move on to the comprehend and examine and complete those independently. All right, I'm going to read the prompts, and as I'm reading it, you guys get in the habit of knowing that I will be annotating for evidence to be able to complete my exit ticket. All right, so the prompt, this is your independent practice. Scientists believe that Homo sapiens, okay, that's that green keyword, our species appeared about 200,000 years ago. We call this period of time the Paleolithic era. We call the humans that lived during this time hunters and gatherers. All right, so as you can see that the map and this prompt is definitely connected, because before I even got to this prompt, when I was in my preview, when the question asked me, what do I already know? I kind of already said those things. I said, I know that, you know, the early humans were considered Homo sapiens. I said, I already knew that this was the Paleolithic era, you know, so I already knew these things. And as I already knew these things, you guys will too. So it should just come naturally, and you should start kind of seeing the cycle of, you know, how all of these things connect. A nomad, which was our word of the day yesterday, awesome. A nomad is a person with no settled home, moving from place to place as a way of obtaining food, finding pasture for livestock, or otherwise making a living. Most nomads live in tents or other portable shelters. Nomads keep moving for different reasons, all right? So it's never just one reason, it's always, you know, a different reason for different groups of people, all right? So after you read the prompts and you annotate for evidence, which I totally forgot to do. I'm sorry, because I'm just so used to reading and keeping it up here, but you guys will be able to do that as you get familiar with how to annotate. So Homo sapiens already annotated, so I'm just going to annotate this part to let me know that that's how many years ago we arrived here. And the Paleolithic era, that's highlighted as well, but I'm just going to remind myself that they arrived here 200,000 years ago, and that was the time they did during that era. All right, and the nomad is highlighted because it's our keyword, but I'm just going to highlight this part of it so I can remember that that is the definition of a nomad, a person with a no settled home. So after I have my evidence to pull from, I can quickly answer my two questions here that will lead me to the exit ticket. All right, where did hunters and gatherers live? All right, now, if you need to go back and read it because you realize that you didn't have that highlighted as a piece of evidence, go ahead, go back and read it, because I need to go back and read it. So let's see, hunters and gatherers, here it is. I found the piece of evidence right there. Lived in tents or other portable shelters, okay? Where did they get their food? I'm not gonna give that one away, but you guys can read through your highlighted text. And if you realize that you didn't capture that piece of evidence, then you just go back and reread it, or you just, you know, rework your evidence. But the more we annotate, we will get better with pulling out those key terms or key sentences for us to be able to answer the A. All right, so that is your guided practice, and I will see you guys in class.